All right, everybody, welcome to another Rook DAO status update. Today we'll be going through the last 2 weeks, starting from the 3rd of September through today, the 16th. As always, we'll start with a few bookkeeping items. We'll then run through the stand-up from the last 2 weeks, get to any kind of major announcements we have for the next week, and then today we're actually going to wrap up with a quick discussion on Comp 3.0 with a small little conversation with Tommy, and then we'll take any questions at the end after that. So why don't we go on ahead and we'll dive right in. So first, quick bookkeeping items. The first thing is the merge. We prepped all of our nodes in advance, and Rook's fully operational post merge. So big shout out to the folks that got everything set up and kept us rocking, through the handoff. So really excited to see that happen. I'm interested, to see what Ethereum does post merge. I mean, for me, it feels like a great narrative shift, but maybe it was priced in, maybe it wasn't. We'll see. Some other things that we have is that we had a second tranche of ETH being deployed per KIP 24. So we sent about 1,589 Ether to our market maker to swap into our ETH, ST ETH, and ST2, and it's been returned to the treasury. I'm sure that Matt can provide an update next week in Treasury Tuesday on kind of how that has been going. Also, KIP 31 and 32 are live for objective voting right now. So if you head over to our snapshot page, you can go on ahead and vote. I think it ends tomorrow, but we'd love to kind of get as much participation as we can on that. The link is in the announcements if you haven't seen that yet. And then, just as always, our scheduling reminder: we've got Treasury Tuesday and governance workshops that rotate every week. So next week we have Treasury Tuesday on Tuesday, and then the DAO office hours on Wednesday. And then the following week we have DAO office hours on Tuesday, governance workshop on Wednesday, and then the DAO status update 2 Fridays from now. All right, we'll dive right into the stand up for the last 2 weeks. From the product team, there's been some really cool stuff designed. We're looking at some new design for the new swap protocol. They've been pushing forward, updating their documents and system diagrams for the API in an effort to kind of overhaul that system as well. They're building out an in-app help center, so that content has been built out, and as they're mapping out kind of the structure of the UI as well. So we'll hopefully see some kind of automated in-app support going live when they complete that. So really excited to see that. They've also begun creating the new GitHub repo as they prep to open source the app. So, as another step towards decentralization, open sourcing the app is a really cool step that we're preparing for. And then, kind of on the biggest news, their designs for the new swap contract and protocol upgrade are nearly complete. We have some really cool stuff along the pipeline for that. I'll get into the protocol side in a minute, but really pumped about that. Oh yeah, also on the product side, there is an integration we haven't discussed that's nearly complete, but we will make an announcement after it becomes official. And so, really cool work from Pangolin, the product team, and I think Alley Cat on that as well. Looking at the protocol side, the biggest news that I'm very, very excited for is hearing that we're testing the first version of the new swap contract on mainnet with the new DEX aggregator Ninja. So, really cool to see that going. It's an awesome milestone for Jay-Z and Zubair and I think Pi Show as well, working through that. So really, really cool. Excited to see more on that. Development will continue to be ongoing. This is just kind of a very kind of preliminary step. In terms of kind of testing, it's still going to be limited to just kind of our internal users, the development team, for the near term. But really, really cool first kind of hurdle for them on that front. Looking at the TX relay, that product is still being pushed with prospective integration partners on the infrastructure side. And so, we're still looking to kind of identify and sign up some beta testers for the product. But in terms of its development, it looks like we've been working through some fully automated end-to-end tests that will cover pretty much all of the major features that the transaction relay will feature. And then there's been some solid stress testing as well with simulated and live transaction flows, just to make sure that it can handle kind of large quantities of orders at a time, which we fully expect it to. So big shout out to G-Men on that. Really love seeing the progress there. And then there was just some awesome improvements to our coordinator. One of the cool things is that we improved the response time for the API when folks are calling kind of archived auctions. The hope is seeing kind of more efficiency around the app and load times for that as well. That they've kind of been working through some infrastructure and DevOps upgrades as well. And as I mentioned earlier, the node preps for the merge was handled through the last 2 weeks as well. Um, so yeah, that's the engineering side. It's been a really kind of exciting last 2 weeks, and really, as we get towards the end of the quarter, I'm really excited to see us kind of charge into the end of the year with some solid momentum. Looking on the flip side, on operations, and starting with the org team, the most significant progress that we'll talk about in a little bit, Comp 3.0. So yeah, we'll talk about that after the stand up. We also have an internal draft of the full-time contributor releveling process. So how folks can work through different levels of our organization. And so that had a leadership team review, still work in progress. I'm really excited. The work that Tommy and Steph put into that is really cool. So really pumped to see that. On the governance side, if you weren't able to attend governance workshop on Wednesday, it's been more really good content. I always give a good shout out to Jason there. But one of the big takeaways is that we'll begin talking about SOFON elections and what's the process of replacing SOFONs. So if you didn't get a chance to attend that call, head over to Rook Base and check out the recap on that as well. On the studio side, we're still working through additional kind of Git book revamp work and website updates. You might have seen a change to our landing page as well. So shout out to Watts for the great work on that. We're working through some end of the quarter stuff as well, and things that we want to present to the community. And Watts has taken a really kind of leading role in there as well. And then working through some co-marketing opportunities with Stable and Rocket Pool regarding some of the treasury interactions we've had with those communities. So excited to see that stuff as well. And speaking of treasury, still working through the treasury management framework. Looking at the progress on the Alchemix position, potential KIP as well. Labs budget still being kind of finalized, and the testing wallet dashboard as well. I've been watching the testing wallet, and if you haven't seen that, you can check out in our announcements the address on that. There's been some really cool, kind of interesting, both small and large stablecoin swaps. And we're still gathering as much data as we can. But it's it's a really cool project for the first kind of deployment of that testing wallet. Um, if you missed Treasury Tuesday last week, as I mentioned about governance, go ahead over to Rookbase, check out the recap there. Things that were discussed this last week was some of the KIPs that were passed, the Bruins DAI free float proposal. So really interesting over there. CBDCs as well, talking about kind of centralized stable coins, and then the treasury management framework as well. And then we'll kind of wrap up the status update with an update from growth. So really exciting. We have one of our limit order integrations that's going to go live. We were told potentially as early as next week. So we'll be talking with them about some co-marketing as well, and hopefully to see that launch and go live, because I'll be pumped to go test that out as well. Had further conversations with the new AMM as well, and so they're interested in some of the new protocol updates that we're working through as well. So really excited to see that conversation. And then I know Troy and Matt have been exploring Polygon Fastlane and talking with a bunch of protocols over there. So cool little collaboration with the treasury team and growth team. Um, and hopefully we kind of see as kind of our other chain kind of data research is going on, see that moving forward. And that's the end of the quick kind of status update in terms of major announcements. Just stay tuned for the two proposals that I mentioned in the beginning. Those should wrap up around midday Eastern time tomorrow. And as I said, if you hadn't voted, please go out and vote. And then the only other thing that I have is, I know that we're approaching the end of the quarter here. We're talking internally about the end of the quarter report and any of the other content that we'll be putting out or events we'll be hosting with that. Looking to kind of communicate out what that schedule is going to look like probably early next week as well. So stay tuned for more information for that. And with that, that's me talking for as much as I can for 10 straight minutes. So why don't I go on ahead and pass this off to Tommy to just quickly run through Comp 3.0, and then we can kind of talk through any questions or anything folks may have.
Okay, sure. Compensation. Let me see. I'll link the document in the voice chat. What do you guys want me to do? Do you want me to go over it? Like how long? Like the short version, the longer version? Probably
Tommy,
the short.
I would
Good.
probably just have you take the short version here, highlight any of the major changes, and then as folks can kind of click through and review, we can take any questions. But I think if you just kind of give a 100-foot overview, that'll be pretty good.
Sure, sure, sure. Give me 1 second. Where's the document? Okay, yeah. So, I don't know to what extent people are aware of our old compensation. There were a bunch of problems with that. I guess one huge problem was that we were operating with like 3-year grants, and we would set a strike price for the Rook portion of the compensation based on the time that you joined. And that made things very unfair for contributors. So, for instance, I could join when Rook was like 50, and then based on that price, a number of Rook would be set aside for me for the coming 3 years, and I'd always get that paid each month. So basically, what that meant was that if like the token price like appreciates significantly, like contributors could get overpaid significantly. Or if the token price like drops significantly, like contributors would get underpaid significantly. So like that was just something that didn't work out. I guess additionally, what also was not fair was that, let's say contributor A could join like a year ago when Rook price was at like 200, and then contributor B could join like a year later when Rook price was like at 30, and then the person that joined later would get a better deal, a much better deal, and it would like pretty radically change like their compensation outlook. So I guess that was a huge problem that we had. Additionally, we were paying Rook with saviors, and that was just a nightmare for taxes. So those were some of the main issues that we tried to change, and we did that. So one of the things we did is that we limited the amount of Rook that contributors could get in a level dependent basis. So we use like 5 levels, like L0 to L4. Well, actually 6 because you have leadership. And then let's say in L4 gets paid more. It's a more senior level, has a much more responsibility. And what we basically decided was that the bottom few levels, they could decide between 0 and 20% in Rook. Then L3 and L4s, the more senior contributors, they could choose between 10 and 30, and then leadership between 20 and 40% in Rook. And the way we pay out the Rook compensation is now fair to everybody. So we just take the 30-day VWAP at the end of the month, which hovers like around the price of what Rook is. And based on that amount, at the end of the month, we calculate how many Rook units people get, and then we just send that to them in a single transaction. And I guess, yeah, those were the main changes. One of the downsides of that is, well, I guess one of the benefits is that it's fairer to contributors, it's fairer to the DAO, because we won't get in a position where we like grossly overpay contributors, which wouldn't be good. Also not for the perception of these contributors. One of the downsides, I'd say, is that there's not that much upside potential for contributors, and for like top talent, for like 10x engineers and like the best of the world in a particular expertise, right? That's definitely like a motivator. So that's still something we want to incorporate. We're thinking of some models of doing that. We're going to be working on that internally over the coming weeks. We'll share that before implementing, of course. But yeah, I guess those are the main changes. So if any for those who've read the doc and have any questions, I can just open up the floor. I can talk a bunch more if you want to, but I'm quite curious to get any feedback and hear any questions about this.
Thanks, Tommy. Yeah, do we got anybody that needs to answer any questions? Just to kind of go through, the document's really great. So when you get a chance, check through the link on that. Um, the design elements and the drop downs are really interesting as you kind of look through, kind of what parameters and thoughts went into the whole compensation. So I'd love to just highlight for folks. I'm not going to read through all of them, but they're really good kind of design elements that went into the decision making for this as well.
Yeah, I think in the end, what we chose was really simple. It seems really simple. We had a bunch of other ideas, but somehow always like the US tax system would like throw a wrench in that or a spanner in the works. Yeah, we had like complicated calculations with like tax, like putting tax aside for contributors, but then that ran into problems. We have this really cool idea for an options model, but then that needs a bit more refinement. So yeah, it's such a tricky thing actually to design compensation and then to design it in Web3 with tokens in a liquid market, where like the token price is so much at the mercy of like what Bitcoin does, or like, and now what the macroeconomy does as well. So yeah, we just in the end, after a long time, actually, we just chose simplicity over coming up with something novel, complicated that could work, but maybe also like backfire tremendously. So yeah.
So Tommy, just for everyone's information, what's the duration of Comp 3.0?
Oh yeah, that's probably pretty crucial. Yeah, so this is set until the end of the year. There are two things which we couldn't agree upon. One is a good way to benchmark like pay. So in the past, we referenced it to big tech companies like Google and Amazon. But then when we updated, like we refreshed that market data, it meant that like our senior contributors, L3 and L4s, they will get a pay increase, and then like our lower contributors, well, like I wouldn't say lower, but the lower levels, L1 and L2, they would get a pay decrease, and like all of the L3s, so let's say Pi, Pango, Miwat, Deets, we all kind of thought that wasn't fair. Like we weren't looking for more money. Um, so in the end, what we decided to just freeze the compensation rates and have the organization team work on a better way of benchmarking that. And we hope to introduce that by next year. And that will also allow us to, in case there are compensation reductions, to like forewarn contributors in case there's a reduction, you know, because like compensation reductions, as we have noticed internally, they are a very tricky subject, of course. And it's not fair if you've hired a bunch of contributors and then 1 or 2 months later you'll be like, hey, this is your new deal, deal with it, and now you're getting like X% less. So that's kind of been pushed forward. I think with this basic structure that we have, we can use this for like quite a long time. But there will be some elements that will be changed, and benchmarking is one, and the other one is that like that upside potential mechanism, in a way that isn't more like let's say taxing on the treasury, because that's not what you want either.
Awesome. Thanks, Tommy. Matt did send some information. I know folks talk about runway and things. Based off of Matt's last numbers, um, we're looking at a runway of, at least 3.8 years with just our USDC and about 8 years of runway with Rook. Um, and so, we're really, kind of set up for the long run. We're going to keep building. Um, I think that as we've kind of, been smart about, hiring and expansion, we really, have a great team. I can't stress that enough of, the folks that are here that are building, are really great. So, I'm pumped that, we can, we're set up to continue to build, and as Matt has kind of continued working through the treasury and, with some of the, KIP investments that we've been doing as well. Really excited to just kind of see the sustainability of the project, be a focus here. And as we, hopefully kind of turn the corner on, development stuff and protocol upgrade and new products, and kind of start, striving for, user growth and partnership growth. Um, I think that, the success of this product will, really kind of show through that we've made the right decisions throughout our time. All right. Well, why don't we pause again? Does anyone have any questions here or anything else that we can? Tommy, do you have any other thoughts on Comp 3.0?
Mm, Uh, no, I don't think so. Maybe we'll see. Probably when we hang up, then I have some smart thing that comes to mind that I wanted to say, but at this moment, not.
No problem. All right, well, I'll go
Uh,
ahead and looks like we don't have much other feedback. Just want to give a shout out to you and your team. The amount of work in this I know was a ton. So, really, really cool to see this go live.
yeah, well, yeah, I am happy. Like it's like having a baby, as in, I mean, like it's done. It took too long. Now we're free to focus on other stuff. Um, Code project and stuff. Yeah, it was interesting. Like internally in Rook, we're kind of always looking to do things better. Um, but what frequently came to mind is that like there are some other projects like you're not like their bare market minimum. What did they call it? Like bare minimum compensation or whatever. And that just looked like something they decided in the afternoon. So what they did was um, apparently they laid off a bunch of people in some kind of coup, apparently, from what I've heard. But then their compensation was just every contributor gets 10K in USDC, and then every contributor gets 10K worth of Wi-Fi tokens with a 30-day view up as well. Um, and that seemed like really quickly devised and workable. Um, and with us, and that's probably, that's definitely partly on, or mostly on me. We tried to come up with something better, and that took quite a bit of time. So, that's always something, I guess, interesting to think about. That oftentimes just going for workable, quick, and then iterating on it quick is probably a better way to go. So that's sort of like a lesson learned for me. Um, yeah, I don't know. Just wanted to share that. Um, yeah.
Is there anything you can share around the discussion as it stands for determining market rates? Like, I understand that it may not have happened very far yet and there may not be much to share, but since I'm working on bankless compensation, there's a lot of bleed over in this thought of this issue.
Yeah. Yeah, there is. And Steph is on this call as well. I don't know if she's in a position to talk. Also, Steph, yesterday was her birthday, so everybody congratulate her, please.
Happy
Happy
birthday,
Um,
Steph.
birthday.
Happy birthday. I had no idea.
um,
I wasn't expecting that. Tommy.
That also
um,
means that we share a birthday, so
wait,
And the
yeah,
double
merge.
birthday.
yes, Joe,
And the merge.
Joe's
Oh,
birthday, and
Yes.
wasn't
Wow,
Watts
that's fantastic.
recently as well?
EIO.
Um, okay, anyway, so um, there are a lot of ways to go about this. Steph will be leading the charge in working on coming up with better benchmarking. So what we did initially was take data from levels.fyi from software engineers, uh, and then have an like a negative offset for operations. Um, I guess de facto that's sort of still what we have because we just took like the old compensation amounts for now and didn't have any reductions, just to make it simple. Um, like that is a way, that way was kind of born out of the fact that we didn't have like proper data available. Another way or like, to determine these rates is by using like a professional data set, for instance, like by computer metrics, or I think, or there's another one. I think that's what Chainlink uses, and then there's another one which like a buffer uses. Forgot the name, but then you can look at like 70th, 80th, 19th percentile data for like a specific role, and then devise like a formula around that. For instance, with buffer, what they do is, I think they take the 50th percentile Bay Area rate, and then they have like a small cost of living adjustment based on where you live. There are other companies that have like more complex calculations. Um, but yeah, that's something that we might move towards. That's not set in stone at all, but that's something we will look into along with a bunch of other methodologies, right, Steph?
yeah, that's exactly it. We are not set on anything. And I think what is important to consider for that piece of work is who do we feel that we should be benchmarking against? Because the original choice of looking at the top of market engineers only in three companies that are actually corporations and have a completely different structure. We know we want to be ultra competitive, but maybe we need to first do the identity questions, such as who are we, who do we want to be competing with, and then move on from there. And once we make that decision, it's going to be much easier to find the right data set to compare with.
Yeah, it's really hard finding like the right data set because you're in DeFi, and like a month ago there was talks that maybe like USDC would tank and die as well, and maybe die would be free float. So like there's inherently more risk even in getting paid in
Yeah,
like USD20 token, right? So should there be a premium for that? Um, so, and like because we have contributors from different countries and because they're independent contributors, so they need to set up like their own company and they need to do their own accounting, right? And costs in every country are different. And do we just want to have like a blanket percentage for the entire world, let's say 10%, or do we just somehow add like a compensation part of it that's just dependent on the cost for them locally. So like there are all these things that kind of need to,
And it's perpetually evolving as well. Not
yeah.
only in Web3, but also in Web2, with more and more companies hiring globally and remote work, and also local laws coming up about how much you need to compensate a person that is working from home. Because, like in some countries, you also have to pay for the internet, or plus the electricity bills now in Europe are insane. So just expect that this is always going to be not easy, and that we will need to just keep iterating on it. But for sure, answering the who do we want to be benchmarking against the question is going to be the first step. Then we will need to make decisions about keeping, which I think that there is already like implicit agreement on the fact that we are going to be paying for the work and not change depending on location. But this is definitely something that we need to explore and ask all the questions about. And step by step, we are gonna get there. Hopefully by like before the end of the year.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep.
But yeah, it's exciting work to be done.
Okay,
And
we bored everybody to death. We're talking about
okay, yeah, the thing that excites us, I probably have put everyone else to sleep. Sorry.
I think this is all good info.
Thanks. That was very diplomatic, Kyle.
Well, why don't we go on ahead and, just make one last call for questions. And if no one has any questions, we can send everybody to their weekend. All right. Well, why don't y'all hopefully go outside, touch some grass if you can. Don't forget to vote on the two proposals that end tomorrow. And see y'all next week. Have a great weekend. Thanks everybody for joining.
You too. Thank you.